Hey, ATTILEE here. So I was going to talk about the Steven Universe episode, The Test, that just aired this Thursday, and I really thought it was cute. Initially I was a little frustrated with the ending, but I think I'm over that now, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Loved how this episode started, with the rain on both the title screen and just sort of transitioning into the episode as it started. That was just such a really sweet touch. And then moving right along into the gems playing the board game, it was just really reminiscent of, well, I don't have younger siblings, I've babysat a lot, and if I'm babysitting on a rainy day, like the go-to thing to do to entertain the kid is to play a board game. So that was, I don't know, that was sort of really reminiscent, especially the way the gems played the board game with Steven, just sort of being like, yeah, go you, instead of really being competitive. It's really cute and just sort of re-emphasizes their roles as both sort of sisterly and motherly figures. It's really sort of in between. Well, I guess maybe they're like sister guardians, maybe? I don't know. So in between. I always look back to interviews with Rebecca and how she's drawn inspiration for Steven Universe from her experience as a sister to her own brother, Steven. Yeah, so when I'm analyzing the show, I usually try and take authorial intent into consideration, but there are traits that the gems display that does sort of show more mothering behavior. I can definitely see that. So moving right along, it was really interesting. So I had actually had to go back and rewatch Cheeseburger Backpack to remind myself what happened with the ceasefire. I had completely forgotten that he forgot to bring the artifact to the ceasefire. And it was sort of funny hearing the gems talk about how they sort of evaluated Steven and that he got a 75 on an easy test. So I guess you should assume that if he had brought the statue that he would have passed. It's sort of almost funny that they had to build in a failsafe. A little disappointing, but you know, they're obviously trying to integrate Steven into their missions and make him the best gem he can be, even though he's not quite entirely a gem. They don't really know what to do. It's interesting. And so sort of their eagerness to, at his insistence really, to make a test, a new test, was really sweet. And I have to wonder just how quickly or how long it took them to set that whole thing up. I mean, it's interesting, you're seeing them open, well, I guess it was 4 out of the 5 gems for the room that they sort of designed for Steven to be opened. It makes me really curious as to the temple's properties and just what can be changed. Obviously it's not just exclusive to gem-specific rooms. It's really interesting. Oddly enough, it made me think of like a Google Drive document where you're not the only author. This room had multiple owners. That's a terrible joke. So it was really fun to see Steven traversing these sort of 3 mini chests. But I think I sort of got the foreshadowing that these challenges weren't that hard as he was going through. The only real danger I ever felt for Steven was when he was being chased by the almost Indiana Jones style boulder down through the amethyst level, so to speak. Once Steven got past the musical notes in Pearl's room and then was climbing up the stairs and you had the little crisscrossing blades, I was never afraid for Steven, and maybe I should have been, but maybe because there was never a really like tight close shot where like you felt like he was gonna like lose his hair or something, or like his nose was gonna get sliced off. It never got to that point, and maybe that's a little foreshadowing. It was to me. Like I was like, oh, something's off, like I should feel a lot more concerned for Steven's safety, because he's obviously concerned for his own safety, but I wasn't. And maybe that's just me assuming they're not gonna hurt a main character, or maybe that was just me jumping ahead and looking towards the gem's intent in making these rooms. As soon as the sort of collapsing spikes stopped right above Steven, it absolutely confirmed my suspicions from Pearl's room. Any hope of an authentic test for poor Steven is sort of thrown away by that point. It was really interesting to see him sort of exit out of all the rooms and sort of spy in on Pearl, Amethyst, and Garnet's conversation about Steven and the test that they were conducting for him. If you think about it, we've never seen the gems talking without Steven being present, which just, if anything, further serves as a reminder that the show's lens, the show's direction is solely focused on Steven and his vantage point, and obviously he might be missing out on some of these crucial conversations with the gems. This seemed like the worries they addressed when they were talking to each other were worries that they had probably talked about before, that they feel lost and misguided without Rose in their presence. And that was sort of a really humanizing moment for the three of them, and I really, really loved the writing in their little conversation. But then this gets into the point where you're obviously seeing Stephen get a little steamed up about this and get mad that the gems can't give him an authentic test. They can't trust him yet. And yet he's still wanting to prove himself. And so I sort of wanted to get back at the gems a little bit too. And then seeing Stephen sort of give them the win. If anything, what the gems set out to boost Stephen's confidence really becomes a boost to their own. Instead of getting mad at the gems and telling them that he's upset that they lied to him once again, like literally back to back lies. That's infuriating. He lets them give him a big hug and congratulate him in their big celebratory way that they wanted to. And yeah, he gives them the win and lets them feel like they're making progress and doing the right thing for Stephen, even though, you know, maybe it's questionable if that really was the right thing for them to do. So yeah, so those are just some really quick thoughts about the episode. Overall, it was really cute. Thanks so much, you guys. I needed to work on like an outro. That'll be a thing that happens one day. Not today. No.